And as we usually do, running on heavy metal time right here on the Yell Chaos program. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for those of you that can see me, those of you that can't, welcome to a very impromptu Monday Night Chaos. It's lovely to see each and every one of you. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar names, to say the least. Lots of folks in there, and I'm glad that everybody could make it out. I saw some people chomping at the bit, couldn't wait for Monday Night Chaos tonight. If you'll pardon me, there's some work going on in the house, so there will be some noise, which is kind of why we're sequestered into this section of the house. Happens rather frequently, actually. But I'm glad to see all kinds of people. We already have people demanding that I go shirtless. That costs money. Okay, that's something that I have to make known from the onset. Is that me without a shirt? That's that draws money, baby. So you're gonna have to plunk down your cash, and you can send it to what is the gimmick I'm hawking these days? Patreon or whatever the hell that is. That's what I like to call quiet internet begging. Um, Good evening and welcome to Monday Night Chaos. Sorry guys, I'm a little worn out right now. I'll get into the swing of it as we go along. Had far too much to do before the program, so if you give me a little time to get warmed up. Don't really have a plan of attack, which has kind of become the tradition rather than the exception here on Monday Night Chaos. So please fire your questions at me, and I'll get to them as best I can. For those of you that can't handle it, can't get me your question or get your entire thought into the comment section, provided you can drop me a line at thechaosprogram@gmail.com. That's the easiest way. I mean, I could have my own website, but fuck them. Google's paying the bills, so I might as well let them, host that email for me. That's the way I look at it. And you can drop your questions, your comments, your concerns, anything like that at the gmail.com, as some of you have done. I've gotten a lot of correspondence, people thinking that I've passed away. I have not passed away, as you can see. I've been off doing other things, unfortunately, and I know some people are very distressed about that, and I'm terribly sorry. I know that a lot of people want me to come back to making regular videos, and as I've stressed in on programs previous, I'm just not that hooked on the idea of making the same videos that so many people seem to. And nothing against those people. There are people that can make endless pickup videos, and whatever it is that they do. And I can't say that I get quite the joy. Plus, I don't buy video games quite like I used to, because as the point that I've stressed is that when you reach a certain amount of saturation, you have so many games, you only have so many hours in the day. And do you really want to spend countless hours and countless dollars playing, the latest trash? And I'm not trying to, backhand modern games or anything like that. I'm just saying that I've got a really cool collection of games, and I like to, spin the classics too. So, and that just, there's only so many hours in the day. That's what it really breaks down to. So I'm gonna try and get to some questions, because I see there's a lot of questions. And so hopefully you guys aren't being fucking dicks in the comments section. I know that I've tried to stress that this is a family program, but there's going to be some F's and some GDs tonight, just so you know. Midnight Defenders here, who I think was talking shit before I got here. Nick Canfield's here, and Nick Canfield wants to know the state of the Hatebit Union address. State of the Hatebit Union. I didn't know we had a union, because if I knew there was a union, I'd be charging all you motherfuckers union dues, but I don't do that, because as it turns out, I'm the baby face of that group. I don't know how that happened, but I mean, we all get a lot in life. It's not a lot, but it's life. I was as far as the Hatebit podcast, I've gotten a lot of correspondence about that. I won't name names. They know who they are. Someone sent me an email about it last night, which I thank you guys very much. And if you don't hear from me, also you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter, real easy, same name, Yell Chaos. You can also follow me, and this is something I'm going to hawk a little bit later, because I was going to save this for later, but there's a video series that I used to do, and I'm going to bring it back in some way. It might be different. Obviously, it'll be different because, my tools are now different. The look of the program has changed. I know that, the videos have been very few and far between. I try to not do that, but, I'm just not at a point where I want to have a camera, in my face all the time, to capture every little last thing. And I know that's why humanity knows so little about its own history, is because people were busy living the moment as opposed to trying to capture it for future generations. And I appreciate that very much, but it's just one of those things. But there is a video series coming back that I used to enjoy doing. I hope I still enjoy doing it. It's going to be a little more like this, a little more impromptu. Again, I've stressed that as video editing technology has gained ground in the last decade, the tools have become very, easier to work with, but still the video editing process to me is still just a chore. I wish you could see it the way these things play out in my brain. I'm sure every person who's ever made a film of any kind would tell you the same, because the human mind is far more powerful than any tool on planet Earth. That should give you a good feeling and a feeling of terror at the same time. So I apologize for that, but yeah, follow me on. I'm on the Instagram now, because some of my people that the people that are around me on a somewhat consistent basis are doing the Instagram thing, and I didn't get it at first, but now it's one of those pictures worth 1,000 words sort of thing. And if you're not into that sort of thing, no big deal. But I am going to try and make a use of that. It's a cute little gimmick. It's far more useful than that anchor bullshit. So it's an interesting approach to social media. So, if you feel like it, you can follow me over there. And also don't forget to check me out on the Periscope, because I try and show up on Periscope every now and again. And Periscope is great because I can kind of do this wherever. To mixed results. For those of you who have ever used Periscope would understand, definitely mixed results. So there's that. As far as I got off topic. I was talking about the Hatebit podcast. As far as the Hatebit podcast, I don't know if any of us have the time. I have not been contacted. I'll tell you a story. I wasn't going to shoot on this. I wasn't going to tell this out in public, but so many people have asked. I feel like I owe it to some of you guys. A while back, apparently, and I don't think I've told this story before, but apparently, Alpha Omega Sin cut a long dissertation about something. Somewhere in the middle of it, as most of the dissertations are rather long. Somewhere in the middle of it, he referenced the Hatebit podcast reforming for one reason or another. And he also mentioned the likes of Silent Rob, and I think Kid Shoryuken was in there. I find out about this about 2 weeks after it's happened. Kid Shoryuken, and Jimmy, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I just have to tell it the way it is. Kid Shoryuken says, "So when are we doing this thing?" Something to that effect. And I said, "What thing?" This was news to me, that there's the Hatebit podcast getting back together. I mean, I was unaware that it really broke up. We used to do an annual thing, which we missed this year because E3 was a bunch of piss and shit on a very pretty plate. You can quote me on that. E3 2016 was a bunch of piss and shit on a really pretty plate. I'm sure somebody will. Now, this was my first hearing of it when Kid Shoryuken brought it to my attention, because I hadn't watched Alpha Omega Sin's video because it was one of the longer ones. And, I was like, well, I talk to Alpha every once in a while, so I'm sure I'll get some of this, trickle down. For those of you who know how Alpha Omega Sin can be from time to time. In any event, I said I don't know. He hasn't contacted me or anything. And then Razorfist, which I feel bad, I guess Razorfist sent me something saying, "Are we going to put this thing together?" And I was confused because it was an old message that I guess I wasn't good on checking messages, but it was an old message. And I shot him back and I said, "What?" I like, "What are you talking about?" And I never heard back. And that's where we are. We're all busy guys with families of our own. I don't want to make that excuse, and it's not to make it an excuse, but I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I really, really, really don't know. I guess the ball is in my court to put this whole thing together, and I'm not sure why that is. And And then there's, there's also people concerned about the format, and I don't want to fight with people on that. So I guess it's, that and the other thing. And as the old adage once went, it's always something. So that's where we are. I hope to hear from the Razor Fist or Alpha Omega Sin, and maybe we can put this thing back together and do it once in a while. But no, I haven't really heard from those guys because, again, they're busy guys with their own lives. And I guess they do a lot of videos, or maybe they don't. I'm busy with other things right now. Like I said, we're still in the process of working on the new Dracone record, which is very slow going process. For those of you who don't play in a rock and roll band, you won't understand this, but it's when people have lives of their own, when you play in a rock band that doesn't draw millions of dollars, it sometimes gets put on the back burner. And that's where we are. Plus, we've also had to deal with some equipment failures, and that slowed things down. I just want to tell you guys the truth. That's what it's really been. So I've been caught up with that. I'm also working with a new company now. A new company brought me on to do some work for them, and they're a very young company, so there have been some growing pains, and I've been very absorbed in that, in my work, and also studying. I'm taking refresher courses, learning more about electronics and things like that right now. I'm very interested in that. So different interests. So I'm sorry I've been away, and that's really what that is. So now you can see my big ass glass, all you nice folks. And Samuel Steingart wants to know what's on in the background. We're watching the 1968 corpse-filled classic, Night of the Living Dead. I was going to put on the Screaming Skull, but the Screaming Skull doesn't really look like a horror picture because we are in the middle of the Monster Mash. I know I'm not doing a very good job of bringing that out for all you fine folks, but I'm celebrating the way that I best know how. So, and we got Night of the Living Dead. This is like the third time this month I think I've watched Night of the Living Dead. I watched one with James Rolfe's commentary. I watched it once all by itself, and now you guys get to watch it over my shoulder. And I hope you enjoy. And if you don't like the view that's going on back here, it's available on YouTube, just Night of the Living Dead. It's there, and you can watch it for free because it's in the public domain. The greatest public domain film in my experience. Maybe there's others, but a great film. So let me see. Nicholas Kennedy wants to know, have I listened to Horror Show from, I assume he means Iced Earth's Horror Show. No, not yet. I was thinking about that today, Nick. I said, I got to do that, but I haven't done that yet. So, but I will. And well, who asked me? And Palkia Spammer wants to know my opinion on atmospheric and ambient black metal. I try not to make, sweeping judgments about genre, because genre is really just a way to sell music. It doesn't really tell you anything about the music. But there's some cool bands that do that stuff. There's some bands who I think they're being ambient or atmospheric, but what they're actually doing is just being quiet / annoying. And because they have all those like sounds from Mortal Kombat and all those weird horror sounds, and there's some strings in the background and a really shitty sounding guitar, like somebody took a fucking like a gorilla amp and put it in the corner of a giant room and then just turned it up as loud as it could go, and there's a distorted bass in there and this fucking horrible snare drum with what they think is a blast beat. Just really slow, and it's just so it depends on who does it. I find that bands who try and do the atmospheric ambient stuff are the bands that do that electronic black metal thing. I think they are the kings of that, because when you're working in a digital space like that, you have complete control of your recording environment. The old-fashioned way, especially the way of recording black metal, doesn't lend itself very well. There are guys that have done great things, who've learned to use the great outdoors, as an acoustic environment and things like that, which is hard to do, very difficult to do. But I think that just really depends on who's doing it. I'm trying to think a band that sticks out to me that God, who was it? I was just listening to them the other day. It's one of the Roth bands, one of the bands that ends with Roth. Something else, a fucking Roggen Saga Roth. I forget. But if I remember, I'll tell you. But yeah, usually bands like that I find is the electric or electronic black metal that do that the best. But just, again, just in my experience. Nick Kennedy wants to know, what riff do I wish I wrote? I don't really wish on anybody else's riffs, but there. I understand what you mean. There is a couple of badass riffs that you really wish that you had written. A riff that I wish I could have taken credit for was actually the chorus riff from Candlemass did a record years ago called Nightfall. To some people, it's a landmark achievement in doom metal. To other people, it is fucking anathema. Because I think that was them at their like commercial height. And anybody who begrudges a band because of how many other people heard them, fuck those people. Why would you? I mean, you know, heavy metal is so full of fucking jealousy, and that's where its conservative nature stems from. It's fucking ridiculous to imagine that someone would be jealous of something, especially something that happened 25 years ago. I think Nightfall was 91. So 25 years ago, maybe older than that. That might be like 89 actually, but still a long fucking time ago. Anyway, and there was a riff, the chorus riff from one of the, I think one of the singles from there called Bewitched. Da 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 da. I wish I wrote that. That's just such a fucking haunting little piece of riffage there. So I wish I could take credit for that. Lupacilla wants to know if I heard the rumors of the next Nintendo system using cartridges. I have, and I will not speculate on rumor. I think it's getting a little late, and Nintendo really should be talking about this system if it's going to come out in March, because, you know, I think they do what they do, and, you know, I'll wait until there's any, you know, confirmation, really. And the Boston Burf is here. I always recognize that like halfway through the program that Jason's here. Boston Burf, who's now doing doing his own Let's Play series. I noticed, which is always nice to see in the subscription box when I get to check that in the morning. A little influenced by the Why Play series, I would guess, but the fact remains is, you know, I stole that from other people too. So. Nobody invented anything. Midnight Defender is saying that the most common black metal tone is basically a Gibson guitars where a Boss DS1 turned all the way up through a Marshall JCM 900 or JCM 800. Midnight, I think you are seriously overestimating the budget of the average black metal band. You might be thinking of the bands that had money and got to go to a studio. I'm talking about those fucking kids that recorded shit on a Tiger Talk Boy and then circulated the fucking tape through the tape traders. Those kids, like I said, were using like Polytone mini brutes and, you know, whatever they could get their hands on. JCM 900, a $2,000 amplifier. I appreciate your nostalgic view of black metal, but yeah, those kids didn't have any fucking money. They spent all their money on spikes and white paint and a goat's head from the butcher. My goodness. Montana wants to know my opinion of 60s and 70s blues rock and roll. There wasn't really blues rock and roll until I want to say the late 70s with Gary Moore and all that stuff. And, you know, people always think of George Thorogood and Stevie Ray Vaughan, but those guys didn't come around until the 80s. They had a throwback sound back then. Just like when people want to talk about rockabilly and they talk about the Stray Cats, it's like that was throwback in the 80s. That was old then. And I don't think people take that into... I think that might have to do a lot with the way that, you know, TV works and the way that TV is so kind of corny that, you know, things like that kind of get lost. I mean, not that it's important, you know, because music, I've never been interested in people or the concept that music is a time period thing. When you're talking about that, you're talking about the manner of capturing the music, microphone technology, loudspeaker technology, amplification. That's what's really, especially guitar driven music, amplification has definitely changed the way that that music is perceived, in the way that it, you know, affects the way the human ear hears it. So that's important. That's important to take into account. Let's not discount that. But I always looked at music as a continuous process. So, I mean, if you want to talk about specific artists, I can do that. But the 60s and 70s, that's 20 years of blues / rock and roll. And those things really didn't come together like the coming together of chocolate and peanut butter till sometime in the late 1970s. Samuel Steingart wants to know my opinions on my thoughts on Resident Evil 7. I haven't heard a damn thing about Resident Evil 7. I heard that there was a demo, or I don't know. Is it out? I don't think it's out. But I don't know a thing about it. I'm actually playing Resident Evil Revelations again on my 3DS. So I don't know a thing about Resident Evil 7. I imagine there's a lot of gunplay. Do I have any thoughts on the band Sabaton? I heard Sabaton one time, and I don't remember a thing about them. I know people really like them, and they just didn't stand out for me. Maybe I'll give them another shot. They didn't strike me as a band that made me want to spend, you know, $12.99 on their record. So, you know. My thoughts on the current WWE programming and the recent brand split. I knew this was going to come up. I am not a gentleman that but you can just leave it right there. I am not someone who believes in giving Vince McMahon money all year long. I only subscribe to the WWE network, even though I said I never would, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite, I guess. I only subscribe to that network a few months out of the year, so I'm not up. I will not go back to the WWE network until January, because I enjoy the road to WrestleMania, which is, you know, say the first week of January on through to WrestleMania. And so I really only do the WWE network January through March, and I cancel it in early April. So I can't really comment. The recent brand split, I'm interested. I find it interesting because, I mean, I understood why the brand split happened, the first one way back when, in was like 2002, because their roster, but when they bought WCW and ECW, was huge, and they, you know, precipitously, you know, either destroyed those guys or just, you know, dished them out to TNA and the, you know, the indies, and where their careers ended, you know, unceremoniously. But their roster was huge. And Midnight Defender's talking about the price of a JCM 800. Yes, well, see, you're talking about in Europe. And you're also talking, don't forget, the time period I'm talking about predates the euro. I just wanted to bring that up. The time period I'm talking about, you were paying, but also don't forget, in Europe, it's much cheaper to get a Marshall JCM series. I understand that because you're in Europe and that's where they come from. I'm thinking as an American, and they're still around 2,000 American dollars. So anyway, but the period I'm talking about does predate the euro. I just want to put that out there. But the brand split for WWF is, I mean, they don't have a very big roster. And now they have a universal champion. They put it on that fat fuck Kevin Steen. You know, Kevin Steen's a great performer. I don't buy him, you know. You know, in the same way, like Chris Angel. Like I appreciate him for what he does, you know. Just for instance, you know, it's like good. He seems to be good at what he does. There's a lot of production value to what he does. I don't care, and I also don't believe him. I'm not shocked by anything he does, but the things that he does do look very difficult to do. Same thing with Kevin Steen. He does a lot of stuff that a fella his size, and he's bigger than me, so I think he and I are the same height, but I think he's got like 100 pounds on me. Um, so some of the stuff for a fella his size to do, yes. But it also looks dangerous and looks like the sort of thing that wouldn't draw money consistently. I could be wrong, but I don't think he wrestles for the money. I think he wrestles because he likes to wrestle, and that's a good reason. Because you're gonna want to remember all that shit when you're like the Dynamite Kid in a fucking wheelchair and can't move anymore because of some kick in Hackensack, New Jersey, 10 years prior or whatever, that sort of thing. I think that that kid's a guy that puts himself in harm's way, much like Sabu, for not a lot of money and whatever. The point is, the brand split is it just seems strange to me. If they had a larger talent roster, I'd say yeah, go for it. And now there's talk that Vince is going to buy TNA, and so they're going to once again go to the dollar store and get a bunch of wrestlers that are just going to be happy to get paid because what they do at TNA is not really professional wrestling because nobody really makes money. But you can consult the dirt sheets on that. Anyway, the brand split, I'm not against it. Whatever, it's their company; they can do what they want. But a little perplexing because they don't have that many people working there. I mean, they have the New Day, but I don't know how much longer that's going to be really over. Excuse me. Let me see here. Boss Bear talking about AJ Styles. That's right. Is AJ Styles the champion? That's what I thought I saw. Some wrestling website or something. They had like all the world heavyweight champions, and they had the WWF champion, the Universal champion. I don't understand how the WWF champion is supposed to be like WWF World Heavyweight Champion is supposed to be part and parcel equal to the Universal Champion, like by proxy. That doesn't make any sense. That's strange to me. So my thoughts on subgenres of music. I am at the point in my life where I try to see past genres. One day we won't have genres anymore. Just like we won't have all the way white people or all the way black people or all the way Asian people. There will come a time where that shit will disappear. It'll be long from now. But anyway, and I see a coming, if you will, a happening where we won't have genre lines anymore, and I look forward to it. Reggae and metal has been going on for a very, very, very long time. Just because you haven't heard of it, just because it hasn't been on rock radio, doesn't mean it's not out there. Go find it. Just Google it. Just Google reggae and metal, and I guarantee you will find a reggae metal band that you will like. If that's what you're looking for. Reggae and metal aren't that different. Reggae is fucking heavy. Especially in the lyrical department. And it's also heavily political, just like metal. You'll find that a lot in electronic music. A lot of electronic music makers, producers, are former metal dudes, and they're just showing their anger in a different way. Also, maybe they got sick and fucking tired of dealing with drummers. It tends to be a common thread amongst people that make music. Life would be great if a drummer would fucking show up. Lupus Solo wants to know if I'm getting Paper Mario Color Splash. Yes, when it's on sale. I am so swamped with games that I don't have a chance for anything new. And I just finished Paper Mario Sticker Star like a few months ago. So yes, I will get it when it comes on sale. It looks like a really neat time, but not for $60. Sorry. Max Johnson says you can't communicate with metalheads because they are obsessed with genre and categories instead of music. That's because they were raised by record stores. Don't forget that. Heavy metal is not the kind of music that comes into household. And punk rock the same way. Doesn't come into households. Parents don't bring that kind of stuff home. That's something that kids have to go learn about from the record store. And how does the record store teach you things? With that white plastic card with the artist's name on it. Because they are not interested in selling you music. They are interested in selling you what they bought. Get it? And that's why those kids think the way they do. They don't realize that heavy metal was Disney-fied and merchandised out the fucking wazoo 40 years ago. They still think that they're part of some underground thing. It's like just because it doesn't draw dollars doesn't make it underground. You'll notice that right now, heavy metal fashion could not be more popular. It's probably going to wane very soon, but it could not be more popular. Heavy metal music, no one gives a shit about, but lots of people love to wear a leather jacket and a Motorhead t-shirt. You ever notice that? Sam Dunce. Guys, you're gonna have to be more clear if that's a nickname for Sam Dunn. Is he on YouTube? Are we talking about the kid that made the Headbanger movie or whatever? Whatever, you know, he's free to do. I haven't seen it. Have I heard of Tangier Cavalry, a Chinese band that combines traditional Central Asian music with death metal? No, I haven't, but I'm going to write that down right this minute. And I am going to write that down right this minute. And I am going to look into that. That sounds like, that's how you spell it. Cavalry. I am going to look into that, and I will get back to you, because that sounds like something that I could really get behind. Thoughts on... Nick Campy wants to know my thoughts on mid-generation upgrades like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox Scorpio. I think it's a bunch of shit. And it's just... It's fucking ludicrous. They can't even stand behind their own platform, and they don't even have the balls to give them unique names. That's how fucking soulless these kids who work in these marketing companies, because that's marketing doing that. The engineers are not giving them the names. It's because the kids who are in marketing have no fucking imagination. They have no balls, and they got a big corporate parent standing over them, impeding progress and making sure that they never, ever, ever spread their wings and fly on their own. Because then they won't need their money and then they can do what they want. You understand how that works? When you can spread your wings, fly away, and do your own thing, no one can put a thumb on over you. But since all these motherfuckers are so busy worrying about making money, doing whatever the hell so they can make a payment on a fucking house they couldn't afford anyway, and their boat and all that shit, they sell you these fucking upgrades as, oh, well, it's the same system but better. And it's, you know, it reminds me of the 32X. It really does. It really does. And since they're standalones, they really harken more to like the Atari 5200 and the Atari 7800, where you're getting some of the same technology, but you're expected to pay more for it. Because why? Because we have to feed marketing people. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about games. They don't give a fuck about performance. They don't care about technology. They want to get paid, and they want you to do the paying. God damn it. No, I think it's a bunch of shit and I hate it. Anyway. Oh, and Kitchoryukin's here. Jimmy, I was here. I was talking shit about you. I'm sorry. Everyone else can fill you in. Let me see. Kitchoryukin knew it was them, even when it was the Bears. Damn immigrants. Alrighty. Arbitrary Mares is talking about how record labels and doing. He says he's more interested in bands that make it a point to blend genres into something just a little bit unique. I appreciate that. In fact, that's really what music is about removing those lines, because it's, universal. Some guy can get on a stage and talk a bunch of shit in German and you'll have no idea what's going on. And then he'll start blowing a mean sax and suddenly you know exactly what he's doing. with no prior knowledge, no prior instruction, nothing. You know what this guy's about, and that's a beautiful thing. But my point of view has always been the same way I view professional wrestling and art, for that matter, all forms of art, is that as long as you do what you do and you like it and you do it well, then I got nothing to say. You know, I'll give you an example. I'll use professional wrestling as an example. For those of you that aren't old enough to remember that Jerry Lawler, the King Jerry Lawler, was a great worker in his time. And when I say worker, I mean more than a wrestler, because there are guys who are wrestlers but not necessarily workers. Workers have to do with entertaining and, you know, putting over a message to an audience without them knowing that you're trying to, you know, do that. You know, that's what I mean. And Jerry Lawler was one of the guys, even in the 90s when everyone knew wrestling was, you know, choreographed and blah, 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 you know, and all that stuff. Jerry Lawler could still get heat. Jerry Lawler could, you know, put a headlock, you know, and pluck the eyes with the fingers or give you a thumb in the throat. And people would boo the shit out of him and would go see that because fuck Jerry Lawler. I want to see Jerry Lawler get his ass kicked. Right? Was he doing anything really all that different outside of what he had done 20, 30 years, or we'll say 15, 20 years earlier, sorry. No, not really. But he did it so well. And that's the thing, is why I don't begrudge somebody like Thomas Kincaid, for instance. Thomas Kincaid is a painter. People call him an artist. I don't really think what he does is art. He paints Disneyland, or he paints a nice house with pretty flowers around it, you know, stuff that's more for decoration. He paints very pretty pictures, and so much so that Disney has like commissioned him to do stuff, and he paints very pretty pictures. I don't think he makes art. I don't think he's genuinely expressing anything. I think he's making a picture that will look nice in someone's house, so they'll give him dollars for it. But he's great at it. And another guy is the guy that does the pictures of the olives, like Michael Giardi or something like that. Another example of a painter that's not necessarily, I mean, you know, could be an artist, but their primary work that they're known for is not art. You know, they're known as being professional painters. And if you do something well, I got nothing to say about it. There's what's another, and I'll do one in music, for instance. There's a man called Bolt Thrower, and Bolt Thrower essentially not in a bad way, but makes kind of similar albums every time they put out a new album. They don't stray too far from what's worked before, but I guess what they have fun doing and what people want to hear, but they do it well. They get in that ring and they strut their stuff for, 35, you'll notice their records are never more than about 45 minutes. And boom, and then in a couple of years, they'll have another one out, and they do it well. There's nothing wrong with that. And anybody who would begrudge somebody like that is just fucking jealous, period. There's no other reason for it. And you'll find that through all walks of life, there are people who are just, as they say, haters hate. That's what they do. So anyway, my point is, I don't really care what it is that you do, as long as you do it well. And that's really all I have to say about it. There's certain things I will not pay money to see, but I got to see you do it before I know whether I like it or not. That's another thing. Always remember that. Only a fool would make up his mind before he's, heard an argument or seen any evidence. Anyway. Boston Burst talking about WWF 1994. That's pretty much the era I was describing. WWF 1994, while they didn't make a lot of money in that period, it holds up much better than, say, WCW in that same time. So there you go. Nick Campy wants to know about any exciting Hatebit content or conversations that got left on the cutting room floor. I can't say. No, because there would be some funny stuff. I'll tell you the truth. Some funny stuff, and Kid Sure you can attest to this. Some funny stuff will go on before the program, but after the program, because it was such a long show. That's the thing. Looking back, it did kind of wear me out because we do 2.5, 3 hours. And I think that's mostly because Sainted Magnus was just kind of a lonely guy. Because he'd call me on the Skype all the time, just to chat or whatever. you know, and so he would call me, you know, we start doing the show at like 4 Pacific time because I live in California. At like 4 Pacific time, which was like midnight for him. And, he'd call me like hours before the show. So we'd, have chats and go, and then, eventually Razor Fist would stumble in and other people would stumble in when they were ready. Usually Razor Fist last, if I'm honest. And, we'd have chats about one thing, but, luckily a lot of it would find its way into the show, which was nice. I tried to, keep notes and make sure that some of that funny stuff did make it into the show. But by the time the show was over, it was just a bunch of bitching about, oh, I got to go to the fucking store, or, or Saint Magnus, he had to get up early. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's got to be at work at 8, shit like that. So nothing terribly interesting. Kid Shoryuken's being filthy in the comments section. Ripper Boo, who I'm not familiar with, wants to know my thoughts on Dolph Ziggler and Chris Jericho. I like both Dolph Ziggler and Chris Jericho for their work. For a shoot, I think Chris Jericho is kind of annoying, but he's, he definitely knows his stuff and he's pretty good. And I wish that they would stop. I don't know why he has to show off his torso anymore. He's got a torso like Harley Race. I know that, it's just, why would they, why are they accentuating that? And Dolph Ziggler, great worker. He does really well. I like him. What can I say? Do I see him as the world champion? No. With a name like Dolph Ziggler, no way. Same reason I never saw Val Venus as, because these are names that are supposed to hearken to, naughty bits. And to me, that is not world championship material. I'm a little old-fashioned. I understand that. I understand that I live in a wrestling world post fucking David Arquette and Vince Russo as NWA World Heavyweight, or I guess it wasn't NWA at the time. But, as far as the world knew, that was the NWA Championship, even though the NWA Championship, I think, was in Japan at that time. I think Masahiro Chono had it during those period of years. So I understand that, but you got to have somebody who knows, that seems, to me at least, your champion should be someone who looks like a sportsman, because I don't give a shit what anyone says. And I know I go around and around about this and people are tired of hearing me talk about it, especially over on Kid Shoryuken's program. I'm sure that the RPG Machine and Karkamo are sick and tired of hearing me talk about how it's a goddamn sport. And people say, well, it's not a sport. It's a show. It's like, I understand it's a show, but the premise is that it's a sport. That's why there's a referee. That's why there are ropes. That's why there are rules. That's why there's a bell. All these things that have come into play. I know there's a show and all that, but what goes on in the ring is a sport. And if you don't view it as a sport, then what are you doing? Honestly, what are these men doing? You look at the stupid bullshit that goes on in Lucha Underground, where they have an argument in a movie and then they settle their differences in the wrestling ring, but no one actually dies. So it negates the heat that goes on, the heat segment, them talking their shit, like they're actually going to try and kill each other, because they don't, because it ends in a 3 count. And just makes wrestling look stupid, in my opinion. It goes to show that what goes on before the wrestling match doesn't really matter. So then if the whole thing culminates in a wrestling match, what went on before doesn't matter either. And that's my point of view on that. So there's that. And I guess I missed the last Powerful streamer. I was not on it. I don't know what happened with that. So I apologize if I missed that one. Shoryuken's explaining to the audience, but he doesn't tell me these things, so. My favorite horror flick? Oh, God, I love so many horror flicks. Horror pictures? Oh, there's so many. I mean, if you want to break it down by, I guess, different segments, that's where, genres again. If my two favorite slashers I know are Psycho and The Terminator. A lot of people think that The Terminator is a sci-fi action movie, but it's a horror picture. It's a slasher movie with guns. So, so that's where I stand on that. Reversely, wants to know, how do I feel about pro athletes wanting more for doing less? That was a really vague question. I don't mean to shit on the way that the way you put that to me, but wanting more for doing less. I mean, if you can negotiate whatever, that's fine. I have nothing against it. What I am against is when pro athletes want a certain amount of money, so some fucking billionaire who owns the team that they play on get to fuck the local community by way of hotel and sales tax for a period of 7 to 10 years. So people can play a game for money. I don't get that. I really don't. I also don't understand how it's perfectly okay to be a pro athlete. Like, that's okay. It looked okay as in our society. But if you play a game like poker for a living, you're part of the dregs of society. I don't get that. How is it okay to play one game for a living, but playing a different game for a living somehow makes you less of an honorable person? I think that's a bunch of harsh shit. I really do. But on the other hand, I mean, if you can negotiate, you got the negotiation skills, do what you do. If you can fool somebody to believe, because nobody's, for hitting a ball, really? Millions of dollars for hitting a ball? If you can bullshit someone into believing that you're worth that money, good for you. Good for you. Absolutely. But I don't want to put like some sort of moral oratorium on it, like us as a community, like we have anything to do with that. That's between them and them. But I am against fucking billionaire owners shanghaiing and holding whole communities, which is something similar to what's going on here in Southern California. I won't talk about that too much. But holding whole communities hostage for the sake of their fucking ball team. Are you shitting me? We're not getting roads repaired. We're increasing pollution. We're not getting funding to schools. We're closing hospitals. But we got a fucking ball stadium that doesn't draw any money. That's the other thing, is how is it that ball players get paid millions of dollars? But yeah, I've been watching ball on TV over the summer, and I'm watching like 1/3 and 1/2 full stadiums almost completely across the board. No one goes to a fucking ball game until it's the playoffs. And even then, it's usually for like the wild card game. That's the only time you see a full stadium anymore, or for the World Series. So you have these stadiums that are there for 30 fucking years, but they draw money. What? How many of them? How many of them really draw money? How many stadiums have we had in this country versus how many of them have hosted World Series games? And that's a packed house. What? 7 days over the course of 30 years? I mean, you can draw a certain amount of money, but again, these giant stadiums paid for from, little kids can't get school lunch, can't get books, and we can't educate children. So that way the professional ball team, all these fucking college dropouts, can get paid fat money and then buy a fucking Lamborghini and then kill somebody with it. And then there goes their millions of dollars in a lawsuit. Do you follow that line of logic? We raped a community and school children to get a ball field that doesn't draw any money, and then we pay athletes a bunch of money so they can piss it away and be crippled by the time they're in their late 30s. That's not always what happens, but it is getting more typical. I just wanted to point that out. Samus Stargard wants to see 8-Bit Eric wrestle a plate of cookies. Somebody once asked me if I would wrestle 8-Bit Eric, like I would shoot on him or something. Like, I know people have this disdain for him because of the character he plays on the Game Chasers show, but I have no ill will against Eric. So I don't know why anyone would want me to beat him up. I really don't understand that. Sorry, it's kind of a crummy version of the movie. It's kind of overexposed. I'm sorry about that. Again, you can find it, Night of the Living Dead, right here on YouTube. After the program, after I'm done, Program will be over shortly, and then you guys are free to go. Arbitrary measure says all pro athletes are dregs until the Olympics come around. It's all entertainment until it turns into international politics. Believe me, the Olympics are fucking entertainment too. Did you see the way NBC went out of their way to not show you Brazil? Nick Canfield wants to know how I felt about the presidential debate. I didn't hear about it till this morning. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. Jesse Ventura said that that politics is more like professional wrestling than professional wrestling is like professional wrestling, and this election cycle just goes to show. Don't know, don't care, don't give a fuck. Doesn't matter. This place was bought and paid for a long time ago. Live your life. Don't pay any attention to these assholes because we have a surplus of lawyers in this country, so nothing's going to get done in the next 25 years anyway. They're not going to start rebuilding roads until bridges start collapsing. It's going to be like Calcutta. Because that's what it takes in this country. It takes an absolute fucking catastrophe just to get us to pay attention to one another. No one gave a good goddamn about Georgia and South Carolina until a hurricane hit them this week. Not a thing. Thousands killed in Haiti. You don't hear nearly as much about the thousands killed in Haiti as you do about the 49 people who died in North and South Carolina because they went wading in a fucking flood. Don't bullshit yourself. Don't believe that anyone cares about you. I'm sure there are people that care about you, but anyone standing in front of a fucking TV camera doesn't care. You know why? Because there's a screen right behind the camera telling them what to say because they don't genuinely care. They have someone else to tell them how to seem as though they care. God damn it. Montana wants to know how much I weigh. Of all the things that we could talk about, I'm talking about Haiti. You want to know how much I weigh? I guess everyone wants to know if they see me at a game convention, if they can beat me up. I stand 5 feet 11 inches tall, and I weigh 169 pounds, 170 pounds, something like that. Yeah, how much do I weigh? You guys are cute. That's right. I'm making Monday nights just a little sexier, these days. Damn, I'm smooth. Nick Canfield wants to know, did I ever play Yoshi's Woolly World? I started and then I didn't jump into it. I've been meaning to do that. I'm going to do that very soon. And that's why I haven't really bought anything either. I haven't bought any recent games because I've got a backlog that it's disgusting. I said, I'm going to do the summer backlog challenge, like everyone does every year. And fuck no, I didn't. Fuck no, I didn't. What did I do? I haven't even wrapped up Star Fox Zero yet. I've just been swamped. It's ridiculous. It's fucking October already. It's insane. My favorite sport aside from wrestling, I have many favorite sports. I love to watch. Now, there's different sports because sports I like to watch on TV, sports I like to watch live, sports I like to play. My favorite sport to play. Let me think about that. I have to think about that. My favorite sport to play, I think, is golf. Golf, miniature golf, and disc golf. All three of those. I think those are my favorite sports to play. Definitely. Mrs. Jill Kaos and I go out and play disc golf when we get a chance. I love miniature golf if it's on a at least halfway decently maintained course. And if you get a shitty course that doesn't cost anything, then that's just an extra challenge to me. But if you get a shitty course that costs money, I go and complain. I'm one of those people. And then real golf is I do it with the Dracone guys. We all golf together. But it's expensive. It's far more expensive. And I'm always of the mind that when they're fucking aerating the greens and doing maintenance on the course, they should give you a discount. And if they don't, they're fucking pricks and you should turn around and go somewhere else. But, you know, what are you going to do? Jimmy Martin says he's digging the painted nails. Oh, well, Jimmy must not notice. I always have a manicure. It's just usually clear. Years ago, I had to adopt the practice of taking good care of my fingernails because I started to get serious problems with my cuticles. And as a guitar player, it helps to have longer nails on your picking hand. And I've learned to put this to great use, especially because in last few years, I've become more interested in playing banjo and ukulele. I've been doing that more. And this really comes in handy. And people think it's weird. Some people are off put by it, but fuck those people. But what this really does is it strengthens my fingernails, and I think it's nice looking. I think it's pretty. But it strengthens my fingernails so I can really, you know, I can pick hard, not worry about breaking my fingernails, which is something I used to worry about. You know. As far as sports to watch on television, I like to watch golf. Okay, yeah, I like to watch golf more than to watch it in person. I'd rather not watch other people golf. I'd rather golf myself because it's, you know, it's a long form strategy game, and I appreciate that for what it is. I think it's too big of a game. I'm of the mind that there are too many golf courses in this country that go unused, and it's a big waste of water and a big waste of fuel to maintain all this stuff. When they really don't draw that much money on average. You know, the big time courses do, and the small time courses, a lot of that is they're stealing sales tax. You know, those are cities paying for shit that they really shouldn't be paying for. They should be putting money into real parks for children, schools for children, you know, and hospitals for old people. But instead they're financing fucking golf courses when we have plenty. And as far as sports to watch on TV, I love to watch basketball on TV. I love to watch basketball. I don't give a shit who's playing. I just like to watch basketball on TV. I also really like to watch on TV soccer and rugby. In the last Olympics, I became a big fan of handball and field hockey, which I was very surprised by. I'm also a big fan of watching archery. I love archery. I love anything that really requires accuracy. So you know, something that requires like surgical precision. I adore that. Let me see. What did I think of Star Fox Zero? I love Star Fox Zero. Star Fox Zero. Might sound like hyperbole, but Star Fox Zero is the game that I know in my heart when I play it, and I'm not done with it yet. I wanted to go slow because everyone tells me it's short, but it doesn't seem that short. It's the game that I know in my heart that I bought the Wii U for. I remember when I bought the Wii U, day one, I said, I hope there's a Star Fox game. And then there was. And it's the greatest goddamn Star Fox there ever was. And anybody who says otherwise is a fucking asshole. It's not as hard as some of the previous Star Foxes, but it's the best Star Fox so far. I say that, I mean that wholeheartedly. As a Star Fox fan of 23 years since day one, I remember when that shit came out, and that was amazing back then. It's still pretty cool. I mean, if you really think about the hardware and what it's going through to do that, just to do that, that's still kind of impressive, you know, the horsepower. So yeah. Nick Kennedy says he's a hockey fan. I love hockey. I don't like to watch it on TV though. Seeing it live it's neat. It's so different than seeing it. You know, they can't capture it properly. Similar to, you know, they've worked on being able to capture soccer, but I think they've done a better job at capturing soccer on TV than hockey, in my opinion. I like to watch darts. You know, for a little while, I'd rather play darts than watch someone else shoot darts. Similar with I don't believe that I believe that darts is a sport, but I don't believe that poker is a sport. I think it's an honest trade. You know, it's an honest way of making money, but I don't consider it a sport. And I only really consider auto racing a sport because of the danger involved. There is opportunity for serious injury, and it's hard to do. You know, it's not as easy as it looks. So there you go. What did I do? What did I do or use to lose weight? My weight loss comes from a very, very, very unpopular piece of software called We Fit You. I bought a We Fit activity meter, and Nintendo gave me We Fit You on the Wii U for free, and these are the results. Absolutely. If I knew then what I know now, I would have, like, put together a video series to show off, I guess, my progress. If I knew then what I know now. But yeah, We Fit You did this. I also run 4 miles a day. So let me see here. And PlayStation Riley is here. Great big Sean. Sean, how you doing? Sean is actually going to be making an appearance in that that long shot. That's what I forgot to do. I forgot to plug this before we get out of here. I want to tell everybody about that new video series that's coming up. It's a secret. So you got to be watching your subscription boxes, and you got to follow me on Facebook and Twitter so you know about these things. And follow PlayStation too. He's out there. I want to shout him out because I don't know. He's my good friend. And him and his wife make some disgusting cereal bars that, what do they call it? Diabetes on the table or on a stick or whatever. And follow me on Instagram and Periscope, and there's going to be some content. And you'll see myself and hopefully PlayStation Riley having a good time doing some stuff and some things. So there's that. And PlayStation is also voting for me to do the to be shirtless. I'm not sure why he's doing that. He has a wife, and I'm pretty sure she's shirtless every once in a while. It's only natural. It has to happen at some point. Everybody wants me shirtless. Oh, also, before I forget, I did get some. I want to hawk this. I want to plug this on here right now. There's some people who have been hassling me about Hatebit podcast merchandise. You are free to purchase my. You are free to purchase my Hatebit podcast gear. That great big denim vest. It doesn't fit me anymore for obvious reasons. And the shirt with the badging and everything on there. You're free to buy that. For those of you that are interested, please drop me a line at the Chaos program at gmail.com. That's where you can send the highest offer, and we'll see who. No one's gonna care, but I figure I'll throw it out there anyway. If you guys want a chance to bid on that gear, let me know, and I'll shoot you some photos if you're interested in it. I know some people wanted it. I got no place for it, to be honest. It doesn't fit. So let me see. Midnight Defender says I don't care. Are there any metal documentaries I can recommend? Gesundheit. Gesundheit, meine Katze. The cat's in here sneezing. The only documentaries that I have ever really enjoyed are like the first party Cannibal Corpse documentaries, which I think Alex Webster handles on his own now. I think he films that on his phone or something. Some of their stuff they've done, but most of them are, you'll find that a lot of those so-called metal genre documentaries contain a heavy bias, and I don't know, I don't care for them. And so many of them now are following the format set forth by Anvil, the story of Anvil, and movies like the Resurrection of Jake the Snake. They're like fucking reality series, but they call themselves a documentary when they're not really documentaries. So I don't trust any of that stuff. Just look at it for as far as entertainment. There's one called Death Metal, a documentary. It's a piece of shit. May the viewer beware. And we're getting some recommendations for The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. Well, that movie's good for entertainment. It's it's a bunch of trash, but I enjoy the film. I have to admit, I really do, because it closes with Megadeth. So how bad could it possibly be? Sammy Stormgard wants to know if I picked up any comics. I don't collect comics anymore. It would have to be something really special, and nothing really special has come into my my wheelhouse lately. There's a series that I wanted to collect called Batman 66, I think, where it was a new comic series based in the universe of the old Batman TV series. I've talked about it before on the program, I think, and it was expensive. It was like $4.99 each issue, and I said, that's fucking expensive, man. It was when I was a kid, a comic was $1. And you could say check inflation. That's totally incongruent with inflation. And I don't care that they cost more to make. That's none of my fucking business. If they want to sell it, they need to hurry up and make it affordable. Because this whole thing of we can charge more because we're selling to these adults is a bunch of fucking, commercial bullshit. Fuck that. I don't want it, none of that for me. Nick Canfield wants to know any advice for renting your first house. Yes. May the renter beware. Try and stay away from property management companies. And if you do have to deal with them, make sure you research them heavily. That's the best piece of advice I can give you. And when you're looking at the place, look at everything behind the appliances, in the cupboards, you're not going to offend anybody. Look everywhere. We were shown a place where a lady had died in it, and they weren't going to tell me until probably after I'd rented the place, until I noticed that there was a stain where someone had died on the floor, and it leaked through the carpet into the concrete. That's the life I have to lead. That's my advice to you. Montana says he used to live in Colton. I know where Colton is. Colton smells because of, it smells. And it's hot. But Colton smells because of Norco. And poor Colton. It's not their fault. Corona also smells because of Norco. And he went to the GameWorks in Ontario Mills. I worked at the GameWorks in Ontario Mills once or twice. I used to be a manager for GameWorks. And I did a few training events out there and had to drive my ass all the way from fucking LA out to Ontario. And I'm gonna straight up say it. The girls were hotter in LA. I managed at the GameWorks in Long Beach, and we had hotter chicks. Period. Let me see. Let's talk about how the comics are mostly usually $3.99. See, I can't get behind that. That's a lot of scratch for, in the comics. I mean, they're printed on better paper, I think, but that to me is not an excuse. That doesn't make the artwork better. I mean, it makes it more glossy. It makes it more frame worthy. But who's going to chop up a comic and put it in a frame? And if you put a comic in a frame, then it's not a comic anymore. It's a picture of the cover. Whenever I see people who put comics in a frame on the wall, it's like a sarcophagus. Like, that is a mummified comic. It can do no good now. At least if it's in, a sleeve in your collection, you can break it out. But this, you got to take it open and do all that stuff to read it and whatever. But now you can do it digitally, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just, I don't care for it. Mm. The GameWorks in Ontario Mills is still open. PlayStation says, yes, that is true. It's the only one that ever really drew money because people in Ontario need entertainment. I've been to Ontario. Holy shit. I can't believe the money people will pay to live in that fucking dust bowl. Looks like Oklahoma in the 30s. Anyway, it's ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am terribly sorry, but the clock on the wall, it tells me it's time to be on my way. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to the program, and I hope we get to do this again real soon. And also, everyone listen to PlayStation's advice about when you're looking for an apartment or a home or a dwelling, make sure and check for mold, and make sure you know what mold smells like, and don't smell it directly. So, anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you. And also, don't forget, fuck the presidency. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Good night. Follow me on the Facebook, on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on Periscope. Got a video series that's going to make a return, hopefully next month, in a couple of weeks, actually, just in just a few weeks. So I hope you'll be there to join me. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support, and each and every one of you. Thank you very much. If you guys are good, maybe next week we'll do the show shirtless. We don't know. Anyway, thank you very much. Good night.